I'm curious. What's the future of YouTube? And with this reading, I'm going to look at the next 3 years and see what comes up and see if we extend it to 5 years. Six of Wands. The King of Wands. And the Fool. Looks like a new direction. The Magician. Excellent. The Hierophant. Legislation. Five of Swords. That's bitterness. Then Judgment. Knight of Wands. And the King of Cups. So as far as a tech giant goes, these two are pretty good. And the Magician is in there too. But over the next 3 years, I would expect there's going to be a new direction. And with King of Cups down here as the bottom card, there may be a merger. It might be that the way YouTube is used to carry emotional messages becomes the issue. So we start at the beginning. We've had big shake-ups in social media and the tech giants over the last few years. But for YouTube, it starts off with reward, the Six of Wands. In this card, it's represented by the peacock, but the tail is down. It's not in full display. So they're feeling fairly confident and pretty good about how they've ridden out various storms. And those storms for social media mean social media being taken over by trolls, being used for political interference, being used to be divisive, being used to spread deep fakes and disinformation and misinformation. It also suggests, because the tail is held down, that there's more they will be unveiling over this next 3 years. Underneath that Six of Wands, with this line, we've got the Magician, the Doctor of Spin, and Judgment. So I'm thinking they may have learned from what happened at Twitter with Elon Musk taking over. They may have learned where they've been foolish and where it's hurting their business ultimately. Because this line says, feel good about what you've done. There's reward and recognition that you've lived through something. The Magician is talking about what you've learned and how that spread of information is tailored. We've got Judgment sitting underneath it, meaning they have to take action for how they control the zeitgeist. If something gets too big and takes on a life of its own, then YouTube will be called to account and will have to make adjustments. The central card, the Hierophant, and that's the rules and regulations that seem to be doing the right thing and acting with integrity. Either side of it, we've got two big cards for social media, King of Wands and the Knight of Wands. And I like how in this deck, the Knight of Wands, which is a fire sign, has a dolphin, leading us into the final card, which is also water sign Cups. So it looks to me like there is some sort of regulation or accountability on YouTube to manage where the message comes from and how the message is spread. Basically to manage any harmful effects of that. So Five of Swords is resentment, it's bitter, it's a cyberbullying card and trolling. And one question will be if this regulation is self-regulation or it comes down through government law. And I think from these cards, there's promises made, we'll take care of it, we'll be accountable. But ultimately that doesn't really work and further action has to happen. It looks like for YouTube over the next 3 years, I don't see a breakdown. I don't see them losing their audience. But over the next 3 years, it will be important that they deal with the emotional content, the emotional outbursts that happen through their platform. If anything, this Knight of Wands down here in the bottom row, because it shifts to dolphin energy, the movement or the progress in how YouTube delivers looks like it becomes more fluid, more metaverse, operating at a different level and presumably embracing new technologies that are coming in really quickly. For this, I would say it's connected with Sedna moving into Gemini and Pluto moving into Aquarius. which is just absolutely ramping up the adoption of AI and ChatGPT automation around the way we communicate. These are strong cards, and for a social media platform, they're pretty good. I think it'd look really different if we were asking the question about TikTok or Twitter. The Magician and the King of Wands, when they come together, that's really like the epitome of a tech giant. And our Magician card in this deck, see, it's got snakes wrapped around its tools. It has to shed skins. It does have to transform. And the transformation will come through this bitterness and fighting and resistance opposition. The Judgment card at the bottom backs up any new direction, will come through the experience and the accumulated knowledge of how things were regulated in the past and how they need to be regulated or legislated in the future. And I'm using this layout to say that this is the first year, the second year, and the third year. And 3 years from now, we get action and a decision from what was going on coming down through this line, which has the most level of conflict coming out through it. The conflict is this Five of Swords, which is real meanness. And the Magician, which at its worst is deception and lies and misleading. Any recklessness or foolishness looks like it gets held into account and adjustments are made. And there's a quiet confidence starting with the Six of Wands and moving down to the King of Cups. Over the next 3 years, it looks like YouTube really sustains its position. It looks like if it's hit by legislation that comes in to protect data or to protect their users, that by 2026, that adjustment is made. The big thing will be how regulation and government policy affects what they do, and they seem to ride through it. One thing that does stand out though, this line here, the full Five of Swords, King of Cups, that's why we need this regulation. Because if they're too reckless, if they're not looking in the right places, if they dumb it down, that lowest common denominator can potentially become king of the platform. So I'm going to get a clarifier on this line down here. I'm going to ask, if 3 years from now, does YouTube move to embrace diversity, or is it really taken over by trolls? Two of Cups and the Knight of Cups. Well, that's reassuring. Two of Cups talks about bonds and partnerships with a very equal base, and it very much representing the two sides, masculine and feminine, coming together to find equality and balance. And the Knight of Cups continues this theme here. We've got the songbird there singing, and that looks like healthy expression to me. So this clarifier, is YouTube moving to a more extreme base? I would say no, it's diversifying. But it could be at the end of this 3 years, there is a merger. It may happen naturally, it may be a natural split of the company into separate things, but there's a very fluid, natural way that this happens. It's not like with Twitter where all of a sudden someone buys it and changes everything. This could even be a merger with a new social media platform that gets introduced over these 3 years. There's a new option that's opening up in this next 12 months, and that might be where this shifts. Though it seems, like I said, really fluid, natural pairings, and a level of accountability where they've learned from what was reckless or a mistake in the past. So make of that what you will. I'm Meryl Key, and this is my Mystery School. Remember to give a like, a share, a follow, or a subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching. You can find me on Instagram at my_mystery school or on my website www.merylkey.com.